So this is our second attempt or venture on topics. One topic. So Renee, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. We are talking about BBAs or buyer-broker agreements today. So very, very important if anybody's out there thinking about buying a home and working with a realtor to buy a home. So Renee, thanks for joining in today. Looks like you're the only one here today. And whoops. So the whole idea behind this is, like I'd mentioned before, hey Pat, hey Gary, thanks for joining in. So the whole idea behind Topic Tuesday is to kind of really drill down and do a deep dive on different topics every week. And rather than just doing a video on it, I thought, hey, let's make it interactive. So that's what we're doing. Anybody can come on, ask questions, and not only that, but Christian has started this chat off with a telephone number. So if anybody wanted to call in and ask a question rather than write it in or a comment or whatever, you can certainly do that. So if you do that, we have our headphones ready here because that's how I would hear you. And so that's what we're going to do today and going forward. So are we doing this on Monday Night Live as well?
Yep, we can.
All right. So this telephone number is a special. Is that a Google?
Yes.
Google number that we got for anybody who might want to call in and talk to me rather than write your chats. So we're not going to sit there and, hey, Create Sunshine, thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to kind of dive right on in because anybody can catch up with us because we have this being recorded. And we're going to download this to our YouTube channel anyway. So anybody who might come in late and you can always do that. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that right up front. All right, so BBAs, buyer-broker agreements. Actually, it is a form called an exclusive buyer-broker agreement, but us in the industry, realtors are kind of using it now. We just kind of call it a BBA. Kind of sounds like a bad word to me. It's a BBA. And to me, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, and it's all based on a lawsuit. And so what happened was a bunch of sellers got together and created a class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors. And so with this lawsuit, they were saying, hey, we never got the option of saying we don't want to pay for a buyer's commission. And that's how all this kind of came down. So I'm going to give you a little history of all this, how it happened, what the reality of it all is, and then I'm going to show you exactly every single buyer who's looking to buy a home through the MLS has to sign one of these. So rather than being caught off guard, I thought, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do a little seminar on this so now you guys are informed and you know why you're signing it and what you're signing and things that you should look for in this buyer-broker agreement. So let's kind of, without further ado, go ahead and dive right on into this. And so let me go on over here. Actually, I'm going to bring myself up here so I stay present with you. All right, so let's talk about what's going on here and how it came about. All right, so here we are. This is the National Association of Realtors website. And as you can see up here in my, I guess it's to your left, it's to my left. And this is the NAR settlement, NAR settlement frequently asked questions. And I am a real estate professional. So they have in the beginning, you know, in brief, they're kind of going for home sellers and for home buyers. How do practice changes impact home buyers? Does the settlement? A lot of this stuff I think is nonsensical, but the settlement empowers consumers with additional choice and transparency when buying a home. So, first of all, let me go over here real quick. This is how our MLSs used to look. Well, they basically still look like this, right? But where I've highlighted, we used to be able to go right on into the MLS and see what a buyer was offering in commissions. So this one says this buyer was offering 3% commission to the buyer's agent. To a non-representative agent, 3%, and a transaction broker, 3%. So these are all the different types of real estate agents, okay? And we can get into that. That's another subject about different types of agents. But this person, this seller, elected to go ahead and pay a buyer 3%. And as a real estate agent, as a realtor, as a broker, we always had the option, the ability to go in and look at how much commission was offered. So a bunch of sellers got together and they said, hey, we don't like that. We don't like the fact that real estate agents know before they even make an appointment, because we used to be able to, in my MLS here, this is my MLS, and now I'll show you what it looks like today. So if we're looking at listings in the MLS, I'm just going to go way over here actually. So if we're looking at listings in the MLS, I'll just pull this one up here on Delwood. Doesn't matter, any of them. So it looks kind of similar. That's that, you know. Whenever I have a buyer, I'll print it out, and this will be at the top when I have a buyer. As you can see, this was from 2023 because, you know, we stopped showing these in September. So actually August. So going back to here, so this is what it looks like now. You will not see that anywhere in here where it shows how much compensation, how much commission. I'll go back here again, we can compare. So listing service type, you know, so if we're comparing the two, you can see the owner, financing available, confidential information, but no commissions are now shown on any of our MLS listings or properties when we're going through looking at homes. And it's all because of this NAR settlement that they did. So if I go back here, I'm going to just go back here because I am a real estate professional. And why did NAR enter into this settlement? From the beginning, this litigation had two goals: secure and release of liability, as many of our members association and MLSs, as we could preserve the choices of consumers having regarding real estate services and compensation. So, secure a release of liability for as many of our members association and MLSs as we could. I don't see the liability anywhere in there, unless I guess maybe a seller could come back and say, hey, I was offering 2.5% commission, and you're showing that in the MLS. And there's other people out there that are showing 3%. So quite naturally, a real estate agent is going to go ahead and they're going to, as human nature would have it, show a 3% property over my 2.5%. I don't like that. I don't think National Association of Realtors and the MLS should provide that information. So I'm going to sue for that because I think I'm damaged because of the fact that you've given that information to any realtor and they have the ability to make the choice of whether they want to show my property or not. So that's kind of the whole summarized issue. So a seller got together, started suing, and then attorneys got involved. A class action suit came out of it. A bunch of sellers got on board, and so this was the result of it. So they took out any ability to see what the compensation is. So now, what do? Well, we have to go to this listing agent, and for all purposes, it's this gentleman here, Stephen Colino, or me if I have a listing. People are going to call me. Agents are going to call me when they go to show my property. Hey, I want to show your property. Okay, great. How much compensation are you offering? What kind of commission are you offering an agent? Because when we do go to, let me just pull this up, Form Simplicity. Form Simplicity is where we get all of our forms, right? And when we're doing a listing with somebody, I will fill out a blank form, put all the information in this form, and so when we're doing a listing, let's see, so here you see commission agreements, compensation, all this stuff is all new. So here's an exclusive right of sale listing agreement. And this is what I usually use, this one right here. So exclusive right of sale listing agreement, we fill it all out. I'm the broker, I am Realty. And we go through here and we have the seller go through it with the seller's obligations. Compensation. So the seller will compensate the broker, which is the listing agent, me, a percentage. Used to be that we would put in here 5%, right? And then we would show that half of that 5% went to a buyer's agent, which would be 2.5%. Now, when we fill out this listing agreement, we have to go down here. There's an extra paragraph today, compensation to buyer brokers. Brokerage commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. That was the whole gist of that lawsuit. And it's always been that way, 100%, but it wasn't transparent, is what I will say. It wasn't transparent in the fact that, and I'll tell you, we got complacent, and we used to tell our sellers, hey, look, you know, we charge 5%, 2.5% goes to us, 2.5% goes to the buyer's agent, and we really never said that there is, you have an option, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. You have an option not even to offer a commission if you don't want to. That's your prerogative. And so it's always been that way, but here's the deal. If you're not going to pay a buyer's broker, like if I get a telephone call and that buyer broker says, hey, what are you offering in the way of commission? 95% of the time, I talk to my seller and I say, look, we have to offer a buyer's agent a commission, because if we don't, if I tell them nothing, they're probably not going to show that property. Or if they do, they're going to try their hardest to influence their buyer to buy a property where they are getting compensated. So down here is now, we would put 2.5% now for compensation to the seller's broker, and 2.5%, we split it up now, as long as the seller agrees, but it's right here in this line where it says brokerage commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. That was never in a listing agreement. And so that, I guess therein lied the problem of what happened. So the National Association of Realtors went from here all the way over to here when they really should be right here, okay? Now, going back to here, why did they enter into this settlement? I just explained it to you, but this proposed settlement achieves both of these goals: to preserve the choices consumers have regarding real estate services and compensation. So I just showed you in our listing agreement how that came about. What are the key terms of this agreement? Well, release of liability. So number one, this settlement settled everything with those sellers in the class action lawsuit. And so, let's see, the agreement, if granted final approval by the court, would release NAR over 1 million NAR members, all state, territorial, local realtor associations, all realtor MLSs, and all brokerages with a NAR member as principal, whose real estate transaction volume in 2022 was $2 billion or below, from liability for the types of claims brought in these cases. NAR fought to include all members in the release. They're trying to play the good guy here. We really fought to get everybody covered under this. So now this is it. This is going to be the final law, and nobody's going to have to be at fault. Despite NAR's efforts, agents affiliated with home services, American and related companies are not released. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So, here's the settlement payment. NAR would pay $418 million over approximately 4 years. This is a substantial sum, and it will be incumbent on NAR to use our remaining resources in the most effective way possible. NAR will not change membership dues for 2024 or 2025 because of this payment, but you know what? We're probably going to get really socked moving forward in paying our dues, because we have to pay about $1,000 a year in dues to belong to the National Board of Realtors, the State Board of Realtors, the local Board of Realtors, the MLS. We have to pay for all of that to do business as a real estate or realtor. But here it says compensation offers no longer allowed in the MLS, which I just showed you. It was offered here. It's no longer offered now. They took that right out, okay? So let me just do this. I want to make sure that I'm not, okay. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I'm not passing anybody up or not answering any questions. Hopefully y'all are hanging in there because I'm getting ready to come to the best part of all this and show this thing to you. But I wanted to show you how this came about. So after all of this, in the NAR settlement, after all this, they continued to deny any wrongdoing, which, you know what? I agree. There wasn't really no wrongdoing other than the fact that we never really verbally gave sellers the option of not paying a buyer-broker agreement. They could, but I guess as realtors, and why we're being protected for all this is because we didn't go to a seller and say, hey, you know, you don't have to offer a commission to a buyer's agent. Everybody else does, but you don't have to. That really doesn't make any sense. If everybody else is doing it, and you say, well, I'm not going to pay a buyer's agent, it's at your own peril. I would just say that. Now, here's the deal. So now let's go into that, and we're going to go a little bit further into this. Okay, so we got this back in August of last year, using buyer-broker agreements. United in compliance with the NAR settlement, Stellar MLS, which is my MLS, will update its policies. I've kind of highlighted, you know, the important points. A BBA, like I said, this is what we use. Buyer-broker agreement is a contract between a buyer and a real estate broker or agent that defines their working relationship, including roles, responsibilities, and compensation. So starting in August 6th, in 2024, all Stellar brokers and agents must have a BBA with their customers before touring a property. I would dare say that written agreements, which is exactly what this is, for MLS participants acting for buyers. While NAR has been advocating for the use of written agreements for years, in this settlement, we have agreed to require MLS participants working with buyers to enter into written agreements with their buyers before touring a home. And this change went into effect August 17th of last year. But we got this notice in August 6th, okay? Key points to know: buyer-broker agreements formalize the working relationship between you and your customers. So I give everybody this cover sheet before you sign a buyer or broker agreement with me. They ensure an exclusive relationship, protect both the customer and the brokerage, and promote transparency and trust. The National Association of Realtors is mandating that the following components be in any BBA. So they do have a form over here in my form Simplicity, but we don't use that form. We've modified our own form, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. But it has all the mandatory elements of it. The specific amount or rate of compensation and how it will be determined must be clearly disclosed. The amount must be specific, easily verifiable, and not open-ended. This is the important thing. Effective back in August 6th, any violation of the rule requiring a buyer-broker agreement before touring a property will result in an automatic $500 fine for first-time offenders. So supposedly there's going to be people out there shopping agents to make sure everybody is complying with this. And if you get caught, it's $500. So let's talk about the agreement. It's the exclusive buyer-broker agreement right here, and this is I Am Realty's buyer-broker agreement. And we copied a lot of what is in the standard one. Let's see, this is a listing agreement, but we, let's see. But if I wanted to use a standard buyer-broker agreement, let's see if I have it real at hand here quickly. Sale of buyer's property. See everything we have to know. We have to know all these forms. Exclusive broker listing agreement. Let's see, modification, exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. Okay, so this is kind of what we use at my office. And that's this. You're going to see it's going to look almost exactly like what we have, okay? All right, so here is the main reason why I wanted to put on this little seminar for everybody, because 100% of agents have to have this signed before touring a property. And I want everybody to know what your rights are and what is in this thing, okay? And this is what we do. So the parties, we have to put your name in here. And then we have to put my brokerage in here, I Am Realty. The exclusive right to work with and assist the consumer, you, in locating and negotiating the acquisition of suitable real property as described below. The term acquire or acquisition includes any purchase, option, exchange, lease, or other acquisition of an ownership, possessory, or equal or equity interest in real property. All right, now, this is very important. This agreement will begin on, this is the day that we meet you. So today is what, the 2/25. So if I was meeting somebody today, I would put 2/25 in here. It will terminate at 11:59 on the, here's the second date. Now, most of your realtors out there that you're going to come in touch with, now if you're not using me, shame on you. But if you're not using me, or if you're in another area that you're looking at property, an agent is going to probably make this for 6 months. And why? Because they're so used to going to our listing agreements, right? So if we're doing a listing agreement with a seller, we're going to make that for 6 months. So most agents just, I guess, quite naturally think that they're going to make the term of this exclusive buyer-broker agreement for 6 months. I don't do that. I make it for 1 day. Unless I plan on meeting you the next day, or if we're really, if we're here to buy a home, I might make it for whatever the term of your stay might be here. If it's a week, probably, but normally I only make this for 1 day. And then it terminates at 11:59 that day. Because I don't want you to feel like, like because this right here, we're going to go on and you're going to see why that's important.
Rizzo had a question in the chat.
You mean Wrestler
Yes.
or Rizzo?
Wrestler, sorry. I saw him saying Rizzo and my brain mixed it up.
Okay, we're gonna get into that, Wrestler. So that's an excellent question, and that's why we're getting into this. You are entering into a contract with it's just like what I was showing you over here, just like a listing agreement. But we're going to go through this, and this is why we're doing this. A great question, Wrestler. I appreciate that question. Let's see. So, exclusive buyer broker agreement. No. Let's see. We want exclusive sale of listing agreement, and we do the transition to a transaction broker. So, we're going to compare exclusive right of sale listing agreement. This is the other side of this whole transaction. One has a exclusive right of sale listing agreement, the seller, and now in the NAR, National Association of Realtors mind, and realtors' minds now, we have a contract with the buyer. So we have a contract with the seller. Now we have a contract with the buyer. And here's your terms here. Okay, so usually we make this for 6 months. Go back here. All right, so the exclusive right to work with and assist consumer. Exclusive is very important in there. In locating. All right, so that's where Wrestler Mania, that's a great question. Because right there, exclusive right to work with and assist consumer in locating and negotiating the acquisition of suitable real property. This term, like I said, I only make it for 1 day because I don't want you to feel like, you are being captured. And if you don't like me for whatever reason, you're good to go. So this is what I'm suggesting to every single one of you. Don't let another buyer's agent trap you into this for more than 1 or 2 days tops, okay? All right, however, if consumer enters into an agreement to acquire the property that is pending on the termination date, this agreement will continue in effect until that transaction is closed. So even if you are like on the last day of this term, and then you put a contract on a property, it doesn't close for 30 days. That's what this is saying, that it's going to go ahead and be effective all the way through the closing date. So the consumer is interested in acquiring real property as follows, or as otherwise acceptable to the consumer type of property. I put the community in there, so I would say homes in the villages or wherever, type of property, residential homes or residential property. Location, we would put the villages. If we're looking in multiple communities, I'll put all the communities in there. The plantation, legacy, on top of the world, whatever. If we're looking all over the place, I'll put those locations in there. Broker's obligation. See, and also know that this is between you and the broker, not you and that agent, okay? This is going to say I am Realty in it. So it's between you and the broker. Therein lies a little bit of a problem as well, because the broker has the exclusive right to work with and assist the consumer. All right, so broker's obligations, broker assistance, broker will use broker's professional knowledge and skills, discuss property requirements, and assist consumer in locating and viewing suitable properties, assist the consumer in negotiating and closing and any resulting transaction, assist the consumer in negotiating and closing any resulting transactions. Fair housing broker, service providers. Broker does not warranty or guarantee products or services provided by any third party, home inspector. Home broker, at consumer's request, refers or recommends to consumer in connection with the property acquisition, okay? Could be a home warranty company as well. Consumer's obligations. Consumer agrees to cooperate with the broker in accomplishing the objectives of this agreement, including conducting all negotiations and efforts to locate suitable property only through broker. And referring to broker all inquiries of any kind from real estate licensees, property owners, or any other source. So they're saying, if for whatever reason, any other real estate licensees, this is a contract between you and the your buyer broker. If consumer contacts or is contacted by an owner or a real estate licensee who is working with an owner, seller agent, or views a property unaccompanied by broker, consumer will at first opportunity advise the owner or real estate licensee that consumer is working with and represented exclusively by the broker. There's that word exclusively again. Being available to meet with broker at reasonable times for consultations and to view properties, that's your obligation. Identify and hold harmless broker from all losses, damages, costs, and expenses of any kind. Consulting an appropriate professional for legal, tax, environmental engineering, and all that. So, making a diligent, good faith effort to perform the contract terms of any purchase agreement or a contract to lease and close on a property. Compensation. Here we go with this compensation. And this is another huge, huge thing that I want to talk to you all about, okay? So I hope you all are hanging in there with me because this is so important. Brokers' compensation is earned when, during the term of this agreement or any renewal or extension, consumer or any person acting on behalf of the consumer contracts to acquire real property as specified in this agreement or defaults on any contract to acquire the property. This compensation is for broker services for consumer. Compensation received by broker, if any, from an owner or owner's broker for services rendered to consumer will reduce any amount owed by consumer per this paragraph. So this paragraph right here says purchase or exchange, either a dollar amount or percentage, let's say 2.5%, of the total purchase price or other compensation acquired. So what this is basically saying is that you, the buyer, who's never had to pay a commission to their buyer's agent before, in the past, before all this, this is basically saying that you, the buyer, agree to pay this money or percentage to the buyer, to your broker, unless an owner or owner's broker pays that amount. Let's say you run into an agent and they put 3% in there, right? An owner only agrees to pay 2.5%. This puts you on the hook for 0.5%. So that's why I put 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I put zeros in there. I'm from the old school. I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't feel like it's the buyer's responsibility to pay my commission when I've been paid by the seller for 25 years. I put zeros in here. You're going to run into any other agent out there who's going to put a percentage amount. And they're going to say, oh, don't worry about it. I'll get the owner to pay that, for you. But you're contractually obligated to pay any deficit that might occur in the purchase of a property. You can go to that agent and say, well, what if that owner only pays you 2.5%? Are you going to look for this other 0.5%? No, I'm not going to. No. I would suggest, my suggestion is to request what I do and say, zero that out, because they can do that. They can zero it out. And then it's totally on the buyer, on the seller. Now, the agent might say, well, what if the seller doesn't want to pay my commission? What am I going to do? I'm kind of, this is my business. This is what I do, right? Let me tell you something. Here's the other side of the coin. I call up the buyers, and this is what I do, okay? So you might ask, hey, Ira, if you call that seller's agent and the seller says, yeah, the seller's not paying a commission, right? Do you not show that property? And I'm going to tell you right now, absolutely I show that property 100% of the time. Well, why would you do that? You're not going to get compensated. You're not going to get paid. The seller is telling you, the seller's agent is telling you, the seller's not offering any compensation. Well, I will tell you that what I'm going to do, I'm going to force their hand. So I'm going to go to my little, where are we? Residential contract for sale and purchase, right? Residential contract for sale and purchase says, it has, and there's commission agreements, okay? I should have shown you that as well. So I'm going to include in our contract for sale and purchases my commission, because it says up here, closing costs to be paid by the seller. I'm going to write in here, buyer's agent, seller to pay buyer's agent 2.5% of the total price of the home. I'm also going to put it down here, well, this thing's a little delayed, sorry about that. 12 of 14, so here, additional terms. Seller to pay buyer's agent 2.5% of the total cost of the property, or something like that. So I'm going to write in, they say I'm not paying any commission, I'm going to write in our offer, my commission. So that's where I'm perfectly comfortable of zeroing everything out. And that seller is not going to say, I'm not going to pay your commission, because they want to sell their home. It's on the market, right? So that's what all that's about. Protection period. Consumer will compensate broker if within so many days after termination. Well, you know what? Again, you have to be careful, because if they put 90 days in here, then you're still obligated to pay that broker if he put in 2.5%, 3% up here, and it's 10 days after your agreement with him here, you go out and buy a property, he can come back and say, hey, I got this BBA here. Protection period, though, let's read a little bit. Consumer will compensate broker if within 30 days after termination date. Consumer contracts, consumer is you, the buyer, contracts to acquire any property which was called to consumer's attention by the broker or any other person or found by consumer during the term of this agreement. So you have to be very careful. Now, if another agent shows you a totally different property, then you don't have to abide by this. But if this agent took you out, let's say it was only for 10 days, and then 10 days later you go with another agent, and he shows you the same property, and you decide to buy that same property, be careful. All right, so wrestler, here we are, buddy. Conditional termination, okay? So if I have a BBA with I Am Realty and you are my BBA, I find out you are a total jerk, I can fire you and ask for Christian without having to do another contract. I might ask for Blakely. I don't know about Christian, but...
Yeah, I don't have a license, so you guys.
Conditional termination. At consumer's request, at your request, the broker, okay, here it is, may agree. And it's the same verbiage. Let me get my cursor over here. All right, it's the same verbiage as in a listing agreement. So let me just kind of just cover all the bases here, right? This is a purchase agreement. We're going to go find a listing agreement. All right, let's look for, well, I'm going to do it the easy way, right? Listing. Boom. All right, so compensation agreements, that's what we can add to that contract for sale and purchase as well. All right, exclusive right of sale to a listing agreement. We'll load that up, and this says, compensation, dealing honestly and fairly. Here we are, conditional termination. Conditional termination. At consumer's request, at your request, broker may agree to conditionally terminate this agreement. Doesn't have to agree, he may agree. If broker agrees to a conditional termination of this agreement, consumer must enter a written agreement to the effect and pay a cancellation fee of. So, caveat emptor, beware of that. So if they write in a monetary amount, look, my compensation is always 0. So if my compensation up in the top is 0, then a cancellation fee is going to be 0 for me as well. But you might want to be careful and look at this and make sure that there's not a $250, $500, $1,000, whatever. Broker may void the conditional termination, and consumer will pay the fee stated in the compensation paragraph, less the cancellation fee. So broker may void the conditional termination. He may void this. and consumer will pay the fee stated in the compensation paragraph less the cancellation fee if from the early termination date, protection period if applicable, consumer contracts to acquire any property which may terminate. So all of this is to say they don't have to let you out of this agreement, okay? Dispute resolutions, this is also in, so this is mirrored, a lot of this is mirrored to the listing agreement, okay? You just saw all of that, loyalty and all of that. Dispute resolution said if there's a dispute, you agree to go to mediation or arbitration, okay? And then you sign it. 3 pages, 1 of 3, 1, 2, 3. 3 pages of a exclusive buyer broker agreement. So you can see how important this is and why I wanted to go over this with everybody, because there's no need for a buyer. And look, so what's the flip side of this? So a buyer agent, you're going to say, I'm not signing that. I'm not going to sign that. And because I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it when it first came about. And I thought, I wouldn't sign that. I don't think I would. No, I wouldn't. I would not sign this myself. So if I'm not going to sign this myself, I'm certainly not going to ask you to sign this. So 1 day is the term, because I am required to have this signed before, remember, before touring the property, type of property, location, residential, the villages, whatever. Compensation, 0. Just say, look, dude, I watched the seminar on this, and you know, if you're so worried about your commission, then I don't even want to work with you, right? I'll go find another buyer's agent who will zero this out and go get his commission from that seller. Because now I just want to show you a couple other forms before we wrap this up, because it says, I just want to show you that they can, right here, go after the seller. Commission agreement. Compensation, you know, so here's a commission agreement, right? So this would go right along with the contract. The seller, Joe Smith, agrees that the brokerage, I Am Realty, may show and use diligent effort to sell sellers or landlord's property located blah, blah, blah. Brokerage commissions are not set by law, fully negotiable. In the event the property is sold to consumer, then the broker, this is where we put our compensation in here. Then the seller will pay broker's fees in the event of a sale. It's a one page deal. So not only do we put it in those additional terms and the other places I showed you, we'll fill this out. And this is our commission agreement. This is what we're going to use in lieu of writing in compensation in here. Now you're knowledgeable and you're able to go to any buyer's agent and say, hey, look, I know there's a commission agreement right in there that you can submit with my offer and say that the seller is going to pay your commission because I don't want to pay it. And so, and let me tell you, 99% of sellers out there are still offering buyer agent commissions, compensation, 99%. Because those that don't, what's going to happen? You know, they're at a detriment. I mean, they are, it's just logical. If you're not offering, if you're offering 0% to a buyer's agent and you're trying to get your property sold, you're going to be asking your selling agent, hey, how come my property's not selling? Well, you're not offering a compensation like 99% of the other people, the other sellers are out there. So there are means for a buyer's agent to get their compensation. Let's see. All right, so commission agreement, compensation, concession, addendum related to buyer's broker, you know, this can always come into effect. Compensation, concession, addendums related to buyer's broker. So again, we could use this and have the seller pay us directly right at closing, right? So simple one-page deal. So there you go. Didn't think I was going to spend an hour on a buyer-broker agreement, but you can understand how important it is and why it is and why every agent is not going to want to get a $500 fine by not presenting this to you. So if you are out there looking at a home in the MLS, 100% of the time, or at the buyer's agent peril, you're going to see this exclusive buyer-broker agreement. And I wanted to go over this to you because of how I do it and how important it is. It has to be signed according to the National Association of Realtors. I explained why. And so that's it. All right, so there you go. I'm just looking at my little chats here. My youngest will be looking for a home soon, and I have advised him to get a BBA. If you've advised him to get a BBA, he's going to get a BBA. So if you've advised him to get a buyer's broker to work with, he's going to see that. All right, so that's, thanks, Pat. I appreciate it. So that clears up a lot. That's good. And if a seller is offering seller financing, are you open to assisting with negotiating? Absolutely. I am open to negotiating any terms to a contract. And so I really feel like, you know, with my experience, I will get you the best terms, and you're in good hands, okay? So there we go. If there's no other questions, I appreciate every one of you coming on and watching this Racer Girl. I appreciate every one of you joining us on Topic Tuesday. And again, we are going to have Topic Tuesdays every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock. You're going to have valuable information. This might be something that could have been, you know, pushed down the line, but, you know, due to the fact that these are mandatory, I felt like it was important for me to put this out and for everybody else out there who might be looking to buy a home. All righty, so Bill Rizzo, thanks for joining. Wrestler, appreciate it. Pat, thank you very much. Y'all, love you guys. Gary, thank you for jumping in. Create Sunshine. Hopefully I'll see all of you on Monday Night Live,
And
6 p.m.
Next Tuesday is Where the Villages is going.
Next Tuesday, very important as well. Where are the villages going? we're going to take a deep dive into where they were, where they are going. There's actually maps that we could look at before and afters. So I think that'll be pretty important. Anybody looking to buy a new home in the villages, even though I don't sell new homes, I can represent you as your buyer's agent for 0.5% of the total price of the home. That would be my, that's my compensation for protecting you. And I'll just say, you know, like I've mentioned before on a lot of my lives, I got a call from somebody who was frantic because they were underpinning his brand new home. Brand new. Wasn't even completed yet. He called me up. Hey, they're telling me there's an engineering report. They're underpinning my home. We're going to talk about why next week. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. Love y'all. Hope to see you Monday night and next Tuesday. And let me just bring myself back to, I'm sitting here jabbering away. Here we go. All right. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining. Talk to you. See you soon.